September 11th. It's the 18th anniversary of September 11th this morning. So we're gonna ride on into work, right at Chelsea. My legs are a little tired from my workout yesterday. So let's see how we do. AY1665, just straight up, both of them just hanging out on the phone. Oh wow, CYC 4384, barreling through the bike lane here. That's the kind of thing that would kill somebody. There's the New York City fleet vehicle trailing close behind. They're also texting somebody, so I don't know. Whew. Everybody's got places to be. It's okay to speed when you're in a car because you're important, and you know, it's okay if you go 11 miles over the speed limit. You shouldn't get ticketed. It's a cash grab. You know, it hurts, it's regressive, it hurts people with cars, but God help you if you are a cyclist after a cyclist gets killed or something and the police are doing a ticketing blitz of cyclists going through red lights or whatever. God help you then. So here got still a super bumpy road. These are the kind of things you see in Bike Talk with Jeff, your host. I think there might be a couple of potential guests that I want to line up. I may have to figure out how to better capture their audio. I do not have a microphone. Fun fact, I used to do a lot of work in film production. And so I actually used to work on sound. I was a boom mic operator for a bunch of productions. Worked on a few sets. Did a lot of my own videos. Had my own equipment. I had a Sennheiser shotgun microphone. It's a $450 microphone. Had it for 15 years. Sold it on Craigslist for like 300 bucks because Sennheiser never changes their microphones. I think it was an ME66, ME66 or something like that. I forget. $450 new. Still, same exact design, same exact model from B&H where I originally bought it. If you go to their website, you know, 20 years later, same exact microphone. It's not like the iPhone where, you know, you're like, oh, there's new models that come out every year. So that was cool. Huh, well done. That's definitely an A. Give that a 9 out of 10. 9.5 out of 10 I would give it. That was just shy of the line, but you know, here we got some blockage. T622982, and here's the Verizon with their cones of shame, cones to, I don't know, alert other drivers that there's a vehicle here. Clearly they're not there to help anyone walking or cycling. So it's really unclear why they put those out. I think they're just to help the workers themselves not get hit by other cars, which is a reasonable concern. But, you know, it would be helpful to just not park in the bike lane either and assist other people. Wow, it's gonna be 90 degrees today. 90 degrees. In the middle of September. September is normally a pretty humid and hot month. It does stay in the 80s many days this month, but oh, I'm gonna come in, I'm gonna be pretty sweaty. It's gonna be rough. You can already feel it. All right. What else do we have on our mind? On my mind. Looks like there's a couple more views on my channel. I got a couple subscribers, which is great. I'm gonna check my phone once I get on the Greenway to see a couple of notes about stuff to talk about. Hey, there I am. Hello, how you doing? I have the walk signal. It's the leading pedestrian interval. You can see it's walk while there's a red light. Now turn green. Make eye contact with this truck, this driver of this truck. Hope he doesn't kill me. He's not. Cool, another truck. Looks like there's two like cops in this car, FCS 1003. I don't know, maybe not. But they look like they have, you know, like uniforms on. I'm gonna get on through here and see what's going on. It's a great example of a terrible intersection. They're just like, here's a stop sign, you guys figure it out. But obviously it's only right turns, and if you are a cyclist, you can see right away you're on the right side of a driver, which means that when they're making a right turn, they're completely blind to you. They can't see you at all. Oh, this is nice. Ooh, what's this? Let's find out what's going on. Hey, what's going on?
On another memorial.
Oh, right, yes.
Just stay on the path on your side if you can.
Oh, I gotta go inside, I can't. Okay, no problem, thank you. All right, they're doing something for the memorial of 9/11. Yeah, this stretch here often gets, I have seen several kind of events and things take place for police, the fire department, all of our men and women in service, and yeah, I guess that's why I saw those guys in the car in uniform. Oh, it's gonna be a somber day then. Cars there are all parked kind of on the median, which is a little bit funky. Like in the median. Yeah, it's down here over, I guess at 100th or 96th, and Riverside is where people are. Yeah, it's a big event down there. It's a memorial, probably service. Maybe reading some names. right. So I hope they have well, at least they have good weather for this. Okay, we are on the Greenway. I'm going to talk about some stuff. It's on my mind. Let me see what we got. Yeah, okay. I got a topic. Yeah, maybe relevant today. Not really relevant today. It's more relevant when there's never mind. But here's what I want to talk about is licensing for drivers. So this comes up. I want to start by kind of level setting that in this in our kind of ongoing gun reform debate, and kind of how it always comes up after these mass shootings, which again happen like literally every day, every other day, a couple times a week. It's appalling, it's awful, and politicians are basically doing nothing about it. Republicans mainly, but I don't want to get too political. But when these things come up, it's often cited correctly that guns are the #2 killer. I don't know. I think it's #2 overall, but I think certainly when it comes to children, and it's like not even funny. It's so depressingly sad that it's good. Like, yes, absolutely, do something. Do guns. Like, deal with that. We absolutely need all of the kind of policy changes we're talking about, but like we missed #1. Like, #1 is cars, and if you look up any of the data on that, that is borne out. That is not like an exception every year or some kind of oddity. It's so consistent and growing recently. When you look at 30,000, 40,000 people die every single year from traffic fatalities, and another like 500,000 or in the hundreds of thousands. I think it's quite high. Get hurt, get injured. Many of those are very, very serious. Life-altering, very serious injuries from cars. And we talk about this gun debate like guns are the only thing that kill people. And when this comes up, I think one of the things I've heard is that, oh, well, at least with cars are bad too, but at least we do regulate them pretty heavily, and at least we're trying to correct the problem. And I don't want to be cynical, but like, I don't think that's really true. We do have, like, certainly you can't just buy a car and drive it, right, off a lot, the way you can just buy a gun and buy it at like a gun show. No background checks, no nothing. And if you have a pulse and money and you're like over 18, you can buy a gun secondhand. And so yeah, we have whatever it is, 300 million guns. I don't know, a gun for every person, a gun in every pot. But let's talk for a second about cars, and specifically just one aspect, which is, oh man, it's windy, sorry. Woo. Very hard to ride in the wind and then yell over the wind. So I'm gonna hang for a second until I get past this. I feel like I'm going like 1 mile an hour here, but I think I'm going a decent clip. This is where an electric bike, just a pedal assist, and help you just cut through the wind like butter. This kind of wind where just, this isn't even that bad, honestly. I've been in much worse, but this is still, you know, a lot of friction, slows you down, makes it a little harder to bike. So let's talk for a second about cars and licensing. And one of the things, I think this is what Trevor Noah brought up in one of his discussions about it. He said, well, at least with cars, like we're trying to do is you have to have a license, you have to have insurance, you have to take a driving test. There's all these regulations, reasonable regulations that surround vehicle, you know, car ownership, the operation and the ownership of a car. So it's true, like we have drunk driving laws, you have speeding laws, you have quite a few rules and regulations that are where the goal is to restrict and keep people safe, right? So that you operate these things safely. And I think with guns, I mean, I don't know enough about them, but it sounds like there's really just not a lot of restrictions. At least in many places and in many different like scenarios where you can buy it secondhand without a background check, but if you buy it from a store, then maybe you do need a background check. And if I sell my personal gun to you, like I can do that. There's no like registration that might be necessary, maybe for certain. I think it's certain states, certain situations. There's a lot of, you know, this is basic kind of how things work. You could just look it up on Google. I don't want to get into the details, I don't know. But I do know a little bit about me and how I got my driving test, or how I passed my driving test. And I want to talk about how, like what that means, what the DMV is like. And so, let me just get up this hill. Whew. I'm sweating now. Here's an Audi. NYP 2175. What does that mean? Oh, it's empty. That's great. Just an empty car from New Jersey. I don't know if NYP is police or professional or whatever. Or his initials. No, I don't know what it means, but whatever. Anyway, when I got my license, I was, I think 17, 16, I took the written test. So literally the last time I ever thought about rules and how to drive a car and what the actual rules are on the road, it was 1996, right? It was 23 years ago. 23 years ago. It was 5 years before 9/11, right? That's how long ago it was. And we're we're memorializing and remembering the 18th anniversary of 9/11. Celebrating, sorry. Gaff. So just keep that in mind. The world has changed quite dramatically, but forget the world. Just think of like New York City streets and how much things have changed. All you have to do to renew your driver's license is literally have an eye test. That I went into the DMV and actually did this because I messed up and I didn't actually fill out the form and I didn't get a doctor to do it or whatever. So you just show up. It takes like 2 minutes. They're like, read this thing, read that thing. Okay, you're good. That's the extent of the test. And so that renews your valid driver's license. I can drive a car, virtually any kind of car, on any street in America for the next 10 years. I think 10 years. I think that's how it renewed. Meanwhile, I have not looked at the written test for the DMV. I did look at it, but I didn't have to take, I don't have to like retake a test. To do this, I was 16. Like, guess how much I learned when I was 16 that I still remember, you know? Basically nothing. Guess how much I studied for these kinds of things when I was 16. Negligible, like negative amount. I can't imagine how little people like study or read any of this stuff. They just pass. The funny thing about passing a DMV test is that you get to just keep retaking it as frequently as you need. It's also the easiest kind of test. I remember thinking how easy it was. And I was like, well, compared to the actual tests I take in, you know, in school, this is like a joke. And yet, lots of people would fail it. Just the written test. This is like multiple choice, like, you know, when you see somebody, should you drive really fast, like next to them, and speed up, or stop at the red light? And it was like, these seem like obvious answers. Why are we doing this? So I passed it on the first try, but I was pretty surprised when people failed it. But then they got to retake it as many times as they needed to pass it. And that's it. You pass it once, you've passed it for life, effectively. Then comes the driving test, the actual driving. Driving test is like a technical skill, right? It's like, can you drive on the right side of the road? Do you know how to use your feet and press a gas pedal and go the speed limit for the 3 minutes that I'm sitting in the car next to you with a clipboard? Can you parallel park behind one car on an empty street? Yes? Great, you win. Driving for life. And when we talk about regulations, you're talking about like the most minimal possible. Like if you have a pulse and your eyes, well, your eyes don't even need to work. You can wear glasses. You can have all kinds of stuff. You can be. My friend's mom didn't have vision in one eye. She could drive during the day. I think the only restriction was at night. You can obviously have glasses. All that stuff. So that's the only like regulation that they have. And then you are basically given free reign to do whatever you want with the car. You have the keys. You can do it. I think the next level of kind of restrictiveness comes through insurance, which I'm not quite as familiar with. But again, like you start your journey as a car owner with insurance, you get an insurance policy. If anything goes wrong, if you get into a crash or whatever, your premiums go up. Those are the amount of money you spend to have insurance per month. And so that is a incentive to drive more safely, but not really. I mean, that only assumes that you understand the kind of implications of speeding and the damage you could cause and all that. And I don't think the average person really considers that when you're driving around. You're mainly thinking, I don't want to create damage to my car, my vehicle, because I'll have to spend money. My insurance will hopefully pay for it. But that's the main issue. That causes huge damage. Why would they be doing that without letting anyone know? Homeboy was smiling at me while right as the hammer dropped. Like, you're about to get your ears popped and you're gonna have some hearing damage for the rest of your life. Grin. But maybe he wasn't thinking that, I don't know. I was thinking what a beautiful day it is to ride a bike. So yeah, insurance is how you do this, but all this stuff is reactionary, and it relies heavily on enforcement, right? Like actual law enforcement, like things like, you know, cops writing tickets and catching people doing illegal things like driving drunk or speeding or parking illegally or whatever it is. What's crazy is, like, I think if you ask the average driver here on this highway, what do you think the speed limit is? Half of them wouldn't know. Half of them would say 60. Because it's a highway. I don't understand. I bet you if you pointed out this 35-mile-an-hour speed limit, they would get defensive and say it doesn't apply to them or something. But if you ask, like, there are no, I mean, I checked the DMV, the New York State driver's test, and I actually looked, like, skimmed through it. They have materials online. They basically have not changed since the 80s, I think. I mean, since when I basically took it, which is not the 80s, but when I took it, I was like, oh, this is old. So, who knows how old this crap is. There's nothing about bike lanes. There's almost nothing about how you should behave in a car around cyclists. Like, how the speed differential and proximity can be dangerous and all of that. There's virtually nothing about that. There's almost nothing about anything, because it's like a 10-question quiz that, like, you know, a 5-year-old can answer with like 10 minutes of prep beforehand, basically. Most of the stuff you can just figure out. Now compare that to, like, what I heard about in Germany, where they have you doing pretty complex, in-depth driving tests. You have to basically, like, practice for hundreds of hours, or, you know, dozens of hours on the road in real conditions, and you're kind of like on probation. I guess that's sort of like when you're 17, you get your learner's permit and whatever it is, and so if anything goes wrong, like if you're caught speeding, like, you could, you know, serious things could happen. You might not get your license. But I think to get it in Germany, like, you have to do quite a bit more prep work, right? You have to show that you are a responsible car owner, and it's kind of like what we all want for gun ownership. Like, if you have a history of domestic abuse or violence or anything like that, you kind of don't get to buy a gun. Gunfighters. Eyewitness news. I don't know what's going on here, but this is the Intrepid. Okay. So I'm yielding. Let's see. Also have a red light up here. So then let's bring it back to cycling. Let's start with, do you need a license to walk? No, probably not. You walk pretty naturally. It comes pretty naturally, like, you know where you should walk, where you shouldn't walk. And you generally can handle all of the responsibilities that come with walking. Okay. Now, what about biking? People are like, oh, these cyclists should get a license. You need a license to bike. This is actually a real thing. I looked up, I was watching episodes of Cheers. Don't ask me why. I decided I should kind of learn a little bit about old pop culture. So I watched a couple of seasons, and in one of them, what's his name? Ted Danson comes into the bar and talks about how he was just renewing his license for his bicycle, which I thought was just interesting for so many reasons. So takes place in Boston, and sure enough, I looked up. I actually tweeted about this because I couldn't believe it, and I did a bunch of research on this, that Boston did have a law for like 10 years or something that actually did pass. It said that cyclists had to be licensed, and I forget exactly like what happened, but I think it then phased out, and then they removed it in the 80s or something. But that was pretty interesting. I found the original, you know, documents, like it's like the city council or something like that. And so it wasn't just some made-up thing, like Ted Danson, like, you know, I did this. It wasn't a joke back then. It's like a real thing. And so we're talking about this now, or we're not. Well, a lot of the cycling advocates and Streets Blog and everybody are wasting time talking about it because it's such a stupid issue. And the mayor has sort of prompted it because he's sort of engaged on this issue. And that's what's so dangerous and about what he's doing just by kind of paying a little bit of lip service, being like, yeah, we're thinking about maybe licensing cyclists and having some licensing system or regulation. That alone is enough to spawn an entire news cycle, like a week-long news cycle of you know, speculative nonsense from whoever, in addition to, like would he, won't he, speculative crap from everybody, particularly from the anti-bike enthusiasts who are just, you know, kind of gives them, it just gives them a news, like a news hook to write stupid op-eds, regurgitating, or, you know, restating all their kind of pointless nonsense arguments that don't hold up under any scrutiny, that all cyclists do bad things, and so therefore, and bike lanes are annoying and we don't like any of this stuff, so therefore, yeah, we should regulate this with, in the form of a license. And that's all on the mayor. Like, he could have just put this to bed by saying, no, absolutely not, that will never happen under my administration, whatever, right? Like a real mayor, like a real leader who actually cares about this stuff, but he doesn't really bike, he doesn't really know the culture, he doesn't understand anything about cycling. I have the right of way here. That's a green light. You definitely violated my right of way. But I mean, you guys are going to your private helicopters, so you're busy. Important people. Very important people who need to take helicopters wherever they go. And they need to be chauffeured around in their suburban SUVs along the highways. So yeah, the mayor, that would have been the easy way to do it. Just say, no, bike helmet laws do not work. That is not a path towards making things safer for cyclists, so that's off the table. Definitively, it is off the table, period. Next question. Licensing cyclists. Licensing cyclists does not work. It's an irrelevant point. We are not going to do that. We want to encourage people to bike. That's part of Vision Zero. It's part of making New York City a cycling city. Let's see if I can make it in here. Whoop. Oh. To embark down 26th Street for the 100th time. Oh shit, I think that's the dude. That guy in the gray hair with the Van Moof biking over there. I think that's the dude that was captured on video yelling at the cops saying that they're playing with themselves and they're wasting time giving cyclist ticket. Oh man, things you see on the bike lane, huh? Things you see. You never see that guy in the subway because he bikes a Van Moof. Van Moof is a super cool, very expensive electric assist bike. I'm just gonna go, I'm gonna try to make it through this light. I think I can do it. I have 5 seconds. Think I can do it? I think I can. Let's see. And you can see this, sorry, changing gears here. You can see right away that how dysfunctional street the traffic management is, because this entire block, the entire block is backed up all the way to 11th Avenue. 11th Avenue. Right, like one full avenue worth of cars Now, how many of these things do you think you can get through during one of these green lights? And you might say, oh, well, you know, it's 9/11, it's an exception, like the day is an exception, but it's not. This is crap you see every single day. Hot, cold, whatever, you name it, there's always a giant long line of cars. And that is just kind of this overt, this like sort of hands up, we can't manage our traffic at all. Oh, there's a movie going on here. That's a great use of space. Oh, look at this. Craft Services is definitely on the bike lanes. They're completely covered over the buffer. The cop right here, who wouldn't say anything, also blocking the buffer. I feel like a requirement for all city officials, cops, DOT, sanitation, everybody, taxi drivers, everybody should be, you have to spend 10 hours biking through some of the streets, some of, you know, kind of the toughest, good, bad, whatever, you know, pick it, but do a real ride during rush hour, to really get a feel for what it's actually like to ride. I think it's not like a penalty, it's not like a requirement, like this tough regulation that you have to do, but you can't learn about this stuff in an office, right? Or in a written test that you sit down at. And you're like, as a cop, I will do this stuff. And also there's some bike lanes. I don't know, you know, some cyclists use it, and that's all you need to know about that. There should be really like a formal learning about it. It doesn't, maybe there is, I don't know. It doesn't seem that way. It does not seem that way. Anyway, that's me. Like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.